Welcome back to the Unstoppable podcast, and today we're talking about trusting the process. Now, this one I love. I love this topic because I think some people call it quits before they get to that pinnacle change result because they just don't trust the process. Now, we're going to delve into something here because I had to physically trust the process. I had no other option. And this comes back to when I injured myself previous to Manchester High Rocks, but I just ignored it because I was like, I think I know better. The pain's gone, it's going to be absolutely fine. Did 0 rehab and bang. In the race, did a burpee broad jump, landed funny, and my plantar just went boom. When I say that, anyone who's had plantar fasciitis will understand the pain of that initially going. It is like a fireball on the bottom of your foot. It's like an elastic band that snaps and then it just feels like it feels like your sole of your foot is on fire. And after that race, I had to obviously get seen by Holly, who's our actual in-house sports therapist at High Life. And I had to go and see her, and I was in pain. I was so upset because anyone who's done a race, and you'll understand this if you've done High Rocks or any sort of race and then got injured, you'll understand that how mentally tough that is to do it and then know that you had more left when you committed so much time in terms of getting to that point. I went to Holly and I was like, I was upset, I was gutted, and I just wanted her to turn around and be like, we'll massage it, we'll sort it out, and you'll be good to run again. No. She quite frankly told me, if I run on this foot, it's going to get worse and could potentially fracture my foot because my foot would be compensating so much. And I was like, right, this is a lot worse than what I thought it was. And I kind of had a swallow type of situation. It was like, went home, hadn't processed it. I come home and I was just in floods of tears because I was like, I'm going to be at the back of the pack. I'm going to be pushed back to where I needed to. And I am not going to be where I want to. And I'd have to pull out of all my races rest of this season anyway. And that to me, it was gutting, absolutely gutting. And Holly's great at what she does. Probably the best that I've ever seen. And we had a plan. And I was like, very much in my own head, I was like, this isn't going to work. It's never going to get better. I was in so much pain. The pain wasn't easing. And I was just in hysterics. And I was very much in victim mentality. And it was like, why does this happen to me? It's not meant for me. I'm not meant to be running races. I'm not meant to be doing this sport. Is this sport even for me? All of these things going through my head because of this one injury. And I literally had no option to trust Holly. I had to trust Holly and the process of actually getting my injury better to get back better than what I had been before, as well as my coach and my nutritionist to make sure that I was actually getting better on the mend rather than regressing and getting worse. And I'm not gonna lie, rehab, anyone who's done rehab, you'll know how boring it is to start initially. It's not stimulating, it's not really tough, it's not challenging as such. You've just got to do it to strengthen it slowly, or got to get better at the injury to help reduce the pain and work with it. I literally smashed my rehab 3 times a week, making sure that I was factoring my rehab into my sessions. So my sessions could have been, if it was a 90-minute session, it was then going into a 2-hour session. or if it was an hour session, it was then going into a 90-minute session. So I had to make the time to make sure I was getting better and make sure I was giving this process every single thing that I had left to make sure that it was going to get better, because me getting back to sport and doing the things that I loved, like running, high rocks, racing, in whatever way, that shape or form that may be, I had to make sure that this was getting better. And that was more mental pain, because for me, mentally not being able to do whatever I wanted to was worse than telling me I had to chop my foot off. Like, that just isn't in my vocabulary, even though my negative thoughts and mindset at the time was very much, woe is me. Now, smashed everything. Did my 3 rehab sessions every week for 4 weeks. Then rebooked in and got reassessed with Holly. Was I hitting the benchmarks that I needed to? No. I still wasn't meeting the benchmarks 4 weeks in where I needed to, yet I had done all of the rehab sessions to a T. My training was followed to a T. I had not been running, even though I wanted to, and was like, oh, it feels fine, I'll just do 3K. No, did not run. Like, I couldn't physically afford to do that, because mentally it was too much taxing for me to be able to run and then be told not to run again, even though I was told not to run. And I was kind of laughing about it, the situation. I was like, oh, it's fine, like, it'll be fine. Come home, guess what? Floods tears again. Because I was like, why am I doing all of this work to not be able to do what I wanted to do? And I'm not gonna lie, my trust in the process was kind of being like, oh, fuck's sake, like, I'm doing everything, like everything I physically can, investing in different coaches, nutritionist, my coach, Holly, like, I was investing in absolutely everything to make sure that this was getting better, and it just didn't seem to be. It was no worse, which was a positive, but it wasn't getting exceedingly better for me able to be running again or to be able to do whatever I wanted to again in terms of training. And it was like, back to the drawing board. So we did another 4 weeks, same repetitive movements with a bit more extra added load, so like a few dumbbells added in. And we started to do that. So we started again with that, 3 times a week, 4 weeks, same thing, making sure that I'm prioritising my recovery, making sure I'm doing what I needed to in terms of my training, making sure the good quality sessions, and making sure my mindset was matching that as well. Now, I could have quite easily at that 4 week mark pulled the plug and been like, no, not doing it anymore. It's not working for me. I could have quite easily blamed Holly. I could have blamed Holly and been like, no, she's not the right person for me. She's not telling me what I want to do. Then I could have gone for somewhere else and someone could have given me a complete different opinion and been like, right, okay, yeah, run again. Or give me something else or diagnose it with something different. But no, I trusted Holly because she is an expert in her field. Like the girls do with me and Kirsty on the team, like, we're experts in our field. So why would we not get you to where you want to be? And that something reiterated to me. It was like, right, just trust it a little bit longer, because you keep doing this, it's going to have to get better. Like, there's no other option. It has to get better. Went back after 4 weeks, had a full-on scan with my foot, did a full-on gait analysis so we could see how I was running, how I was footfalling, where my takeoff was on my foot. Really, really, really cool data that we got from that. We went and we did some assessments, had to see where it was at, and I could run again. So 8 weeks seems like a long time in the short term, but the reality is 8 weeks of just solidly committing to something, trusting the process, making sure it was getting better. I'm not being funny, it was worth it. Because 8 weeks back from running, and I've never actually been able to run as fast in my life, because I've actually gone and strengthened the areas that I needed to strengthen. Yes, I'm still having to do rehab, and I'm probably going to have to do prehab for the rest of my life in different forms, and it's not just doing bodyweight stuff, it's more loaded stuff, which is a little bit more exciting, but I'm still always going to have to do it to make sure that this injury never ever comes back again, because I can't physically afford it to again mentally. With me trusting the process, I cannot tell you how many ups and downs I had, how hard it was, and honestly, finding the people around me to support me was so important in trusting that process as well. Making sure that there was basically evidence there that I could trust the process. And there was making improvements, it was getting better, and I'm now better than I was before. And for me, that's genuinely incredible. But I also understand why people give up in trusting the process if they feel like things aren't necessarily going their way, or it seems like there's never an end date. No one has an end date to anything unless it's set in stone, like this is your end date, this is when you've got to finish. When it comes to the injury side, and I am relating it to the injury side because I know this is something that people struggle with a lot, is the fact that when an injury happens, you do not know the scale of it. Like probably anything else in your life as well, you don't know the scale of how much that's going to impact you later on down the line. So if you just do the work now, it's going to just save you time, energy, mentally and physically, to get you to where you want to be. Because if you kind of dip in and dip out of it, are you fully committing? No. Are you fully trusting the process? No. And you're never ever going to get to where you want to, and you're never going to progress in a way that you want to, or as fast as that you want to, by not committing. Now, when I talk about the mental taxing of trusting the process, it is mentally challenging. Like very mentally challenging. And you're going to have days where things are harder. You're going to have days where things are easier. You're going to have days where you think you're ahead of the game, and then you're also going to think you've got days well behind the game of where you're currently at and where you're wanting to work towards. And how you manage that speaks volumes on, one, who you are as a person, but how you approach other situations as well. Now, my piece of advice for people who are kind of struggling to trust the process is just bite the frigging bullet and just trust it. You have no other option right now other than to trust it. Like, you've got to trust the process, but then also as well, you've got to put the work in. And that is the one thing that I noticed from my rehab journey, is that you have to physically put the work in to make sure you get to that point, or else you're never going to be able to. You can't trust a process when the process isn't processing and you're not doing the things that you need to. Like, that's part of the process. And I think that's what people realise. Like, you get all of these coaches, you get your nutritionists, you can do all of that, but if you're not actually doing the underground work and you're not doing the hard stuff, is it going to get better? Now, I'm going to leave that here today on today's episode. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.